In September 2006, the Fantastic Four Worlds' Greatest Heroes premiered on Cartoon Network. Based on the Marvel comic book of the same name, and timed to be released before the sequel to 2006's live-action Fantastic Four movie, World's Greatest Heroes would be the team's fourth foray into animation, following their 1967, 1978, and 1994 series, and was produced by the France-based animation company MoonScoop Group and Taffy Entertainment. The show foregoes an origin story and instead introduces us to an already established Fantastic Four, a group who on a mission into outer space were exposed to cosmic rays, resulting in each one gaining fantastic powers. We're introduced to Mr. Fantastic, who as well as being the world's smartest man, is able to stretch any part of his body. Joining him are Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, who as well as having the power of invisibility, can also create force fields. Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, who has the power to set himself on fire, but also control it and fly. And Ben Grimm, the ever-loving blue-eyed Thing, who has been mutated into a humanoid rock form with superhuman strength and invulnerability. As in the comics, the four live and operate from the Baxter Building, which is based in New York City, where they, as well as being the city's defenders, also regularly embark on fantastical adventures all around the universe. The Fantastic Four are also New York's premier superheroes, and as a result play an active part in the city's community programs with varying degrees of success. Main theme and intro.
That was great.
The music has a quirky espionage adventure show feel to it. Through visuals, we are introduced to all four principal characters and given a glimpse of some of the events and action featured in the series. The music also conveys that the show doesn't take itself too seriously. Story and character. Christopher Yost, as well as serving as script editor, wrote several episodes of the show. Yost found success with Marvel after he and writer Craig Kyle, who also wrote several episodes and oversaw production of the show, co-created the character X-23 for the animated series X-Men Evolution, a character that would prove to be so popular that the two would also bring her into the main comics continuity. X-23 would later make her big screen debut in the critically acclaimed Logan, much how Harley Quinn did with her first appearance in Batman the Animated Series. Yost has also written episodes for animated shows including Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Batman, and Star Wars Rebels, as well as several episodes of Wolverine and the X-Men, and was the series producer and writer on Iron Man Armored Adventures. While working as the head writer on Fantastic Four Worlds' Greatest Heroes, Yost first began working with writer Joshua Fine, who wrote several notable episodes on the show's run. The two would then go on to executive produce on Spectacular Spider-Man and produce and write on Wolverine and the X-Men, as well as Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Christopher Yost also co-wrote an episode with notable comic writer Dan Slott, who is a major presence in Marvel Comics, writing notable series starring She-Hulk, The Thing, and the Great Lakes Avengers.
No, seriously, those issues are really good.
Dan Slott has also written some of the best Spider-Man stories of all time. Dan Slott is a big deal. Another writer of note is Bob Forward, who has written episodes for X-Men Evolution, SWAT Cats, Biker Mice from Mars, and the 1996 series of The Incredible Hulk, but is perhaps best known as being one of the main writers on Beast Wars Transformers. World's Greatest Heroes was commissioned to tie into the release of the sequel of the 2006 live-action Fantastic Four movie, The Rise of the Silver Surfer. Certain elements from the first movie have been carried over into the show, for example Dr. Doom being with Reed and the others during the accident, resulting in his scars, and Elisa Masters being African American, matching her film counterpart played by Kerry Washington. The show, however, is far more faithful to the original comic source material, in particular when it comes to its characters and the world that they inhabit. The series is a light-hearted science fiction adventure show, with episodes tending to be standalone, but maintaining a light continuity over the course of the season. The show's main cast is very small.
Well, there's only 4 of them.
Which allows the main cast decent screen time in each episode. What was most important with any adaptation of the Fantastic Four is getting the essence of the characters right. Reed Richards, though a genius, has a childlike enthusiasm for science and the unknown. This version of Reed is also extremely socially awkward, and at times can be oblivious to almost anything occurring around him that isn't to do with his work. In comparison, Johnny Storm is the complete opposite to Reed, selfish and obnoxious, and just, well, really stupid. This is one of the show's main issues, as it limits Johnny's ability to grow in the series. He is very often the cause of a lot of the team's issues, and though it is humorous in some scenes, the show never quite gets the balance right. Sue Storm is the most well-rounded member. As in the comics, she is the one that keeps the team together. Working as the Fantastic Four's PR manager, it is also suggested that she designed the logo and brand, as well as the uniforms. Sue's power levels are also something that are hinted at for further development. In the comics, Sue is arguably the most powerful member. However, the standout of the show is Ben Grimm. The ever-loving blue-eyed thing, Ben Grimm is one of Marvel Comics' greatest characters, and the writers completely understand this fact. Clearly enjoying writing him, a good man with a terrible burden, who even after all that has happened to him, chooses to do the right thing. He doesn't always get it right.
His solutions to most problems is clobbering.
But the series conveys that underneath all those rocks is a man of incredible strength of character and conviction. The relationships between the four are very faithful. In particular, the Thing's rivalry with Johnny, and his odd couple friendship with Reed. Reed and Sue are one of the most famous couples in comics. However, in this version they are a platonic relationship, though it is hinted that something could happen between them in the future. The squabbling family dynamic has always been a famous part of the comics, and the series does a great job in continuing that aspect of the show, whether it be in their quieter times together or fighting an army of Doombots. Speaking of Doom, you can't have the Fantastic Four without Doctor Doom, and this version is extremely faithful to his comics counterpart. A megalomaniac obsessed with proving himself superior to all of humanity, in particular Reed Richards. As in the comics, Doom is the monarch of Latveria, and as a result has diplomatic immunity. However, in this series, he lives across town from the Baxter Building, in his own embassy, continuously plotting against the team, which is a sort of nod to his building being across town in the live-action movie. Though never straight up adapting the more popular stories from the comics, the writers do use a lot of those stories' elements, with a lot of nods to the larger Marvel universe. The Mole Man, Ronan the Accuser, the Skrulls, the Impossible Man, Annihilus, and the Frightful Four are just a few of the team's rogues gallery to appear. The show is often very funny, with some great dialogue, one-liners, and visual jokes. One element created for the show is the inclusion of tenants who live on the other floors of the Baxter Building, some of whom hate the Four and almost all being very odd. It could be seen as a small nod to the 1994 series' first season, which featured a tense relationship between the Fantastic Four and their landlady, Miss Lavina Forbes, who was voiced by Fantastic Four co-creator Stan Lee's wife, Joan Lee. Design and style. Produced by French animation studio MoonScoop Productions, whose previous work included the cult favourite show Code Lyco, and its sequel series, Code Lyco Evolution. Like those shows, World's Greatest Heroes combines two-dimensional art and three-dimensional computer animation. David Farr was the creative manager, serving also as graphic author and artistic director, along with Frank Louis Marie, whose previous work includes background design work on Ultimate Avengers 2 and as art director on LEGO Marvel Superheroes, Guardians of the Galaxy, The Thanos Threat, and LEGO DC Superheroes Justice League Attack of the Legion of Doom. The show's character designs were done by Kamel Tazit, with input from David Farr. Tazit's previous work includes storyboard work on Arthur and the Invisibles and art design on Botsmaster.
I like Botsmaster.
There is a very distinct style to the show, using visuals and editing techniques often found in Japanese anime. This gives World's Greatest Heroes a very distinctive look and tone. Buildings and vehicles are often animated using computer animation, and this can sometimes seem a little jarring. However, the lighting and colours used allow for some very dynamic and exciting visuals, in particular with background characters and creature designs. Almost all of Fantastic Four's supporting cast and rogues gallery features in this series, and the show does an outstanding job in finding a balance in staying faithful but also updating their designs. There was a lot of thought put into little visual details featured throughout the series. Something that works really well is the use of the Fantastic Four logo, with all of the FS equipment featuring in some capacity, to the point that it's even on their luggage. Episodes even change scenes or locations with a clip of one of the main four generating the team's logo with their powers. The backgrounds and locations used in the series gives it genuine scope. One thing I particularly liked were the quirky designs of the inhabitants of New York, which gives the city its own character and further helps the world of the Fantastic Four feel truly inhabited. Action. With some inventive use of the Four's powers, the anime style really adds a dimension to the action. The team's power sets are all made good use of, in particular Reed's stretching. The editing is also always dynamic, with cutaways used in inventive ways during fights, as well as its more comedic moments. Voice cast. Hiromu Kanagawa plays Mr. Fantastic. Voice work wise, Kanagawa has worked mainly on manga animated series, including Mobile Suit Gundam, Master Keaton, and Inuyasha. Perhaps best known as Principal Quan from the TV series Smallville, he has also appeared in shows including The Man in the High Castle, Altered Carbon, and Legends of Tomorrow. Kanagawa has the distinction of having played 3 different characters in the TV series The X-Files, appearing independently in seasons 2, 4, and 10. I really like his casting in this, bringing a subtle, almost childlike innocence to Reed's unending passion for science and discovery. Lara Gilchrist plays Sue Storm. Not a major presence in voice work, she did voice Marvel character Emma Frost in The Astonishing X-Men. Her live action work includes Smallville, Battlestar Galactica, Supernatural, and Stargate Atlantis. Gilchrist brings a grounded personality to Sue, infusing her with confidence and common sense, which is the backbone of the team, yet still allowing her to stand out whilst in the presence of such larger-than-life personalities. The Human Torch is voiced by Christopher Jacquot. His previous roles include Topher in animated series Total Drama, Shinobu in Beyblade, Total Steel, and has had live-action appearances in A Town Called Eureka and Battlestar Galactica. He brings a good level of youthful arrogance to the Human Torch. Brian Dobson is perfectly cast as Ben Grimm, giving the character the gruff but lovable personality he is so famous for in the comics. Dobson has an extensive career in voice acting, both in animation and in computer games, providing several memorable voices in the Warhammer 40k Dawn of War series, Sins of a Solar Empire, and Prototype. He also voiced Skeletor and various supporting characters in 2002's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Red Alert in Transformers Armada and Transformers Cybertron, and Lex Luthor in Crypto the Superdog.
Fun fact, Crypto the Superdog is still better written than Ultimate Spider-Man.
Joining Brian Dobson on the show are his 2 brothers, Paul and Michael Dobson. Paul Dobson has an extensive career in anime voice work. His Western animation work includes voicing adult Enzo in Reboot, various characters in Transformers Beast Machines, and in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. In World's Greatest Heroes, he voices the Mole Man and Doctor Doom, bringing a suitable mix of menace and arrogance to Marvel's most iconic villain. Michael Dobson plays Ronan the Accuser. Another with extensive work in anime, Michael's previous work also includes voicing Leonardo in the short-lived Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Next Mutation, various characters in Warhammer 40k Dawn of War, 4 Tales of Asgard, and G.I. Joe Extreme.
So extreme!
Other actors featured in the show include John Novak, Terry Classen, Michael Adamwaith, Mark Gibbon, and Beast Wars alum Scott McNeil and David Kay. The Clancy Brown effect. Whenever I watch any cartoon, the first thing I check is does it feature Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown is one of the all-time greats of cinema and television, most famous for his roles as the Kurgan in Highlander and Lex Luthor in the Bruce Timm DC era. Still to this day, the best Lex Luthor. The man has done a lot of voice work over the years, to the point where his presence has almost been a constant in shows I watched growing up. As a result, any show not featuring him will never, in my eyes, be truly great.
Damn.
Soundtrack. The soundtrack and main theme were written by Israeli singer, musician and composer Noam Kanil, who during his long career has sold over 8 million records. Kanil would later work alongside Israeli-American composer Shuki Levy and producer Hayam Saban, who were the creators of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Which brings us to the Shuki Levy effect. Whenever I watch any series, the first thing I check is, has Shuki Levy worked on it? Levy's career includes writing over 125 theme tunes to various live-action and animated series, including the bulk of the earlier series of the Power Rangers, Sweet Valley High, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Samurai Pizza Cats, Jason the Wheel Warriors, Ulysses 31, Digimon, Inspector Gadget, and Mask.
He is very possibly the greatest musician to have ever lived.
Noam Kanil frequently worked alongside Levy and Hayam Saban, performing the vocals for several of those mentioned shows.
I think that makes him the greatest singer of all time.
Kanil also composed and performed the themes for series including X-Men, Goldarok, the 2012 series of the Mysterious Cities of Gold, 1984's Heathcliff, Witch, the previously mentioned Code Lyoko, and Power Rangers series which includes Ninja Steel, Hyperforce, Samurai, Megaforce, Dino Charge, and Dino Supercharge.
Who comes up with these names?
He infuses Fantastic Four Worlds' Greatest Heroes with a distinct use of classic action music mixed with alternative R&B riffs, and even with the occasional ominous atmospheric theme. It sometimes can feel a bit crowded, but ultimately merges well with the show's very distinct design and style. How meta is it? Fantastic Four Worlds' Greatest Heroes is a love letter to its source material, as well as the team's other appearances in other media, even the bad ones. A great example of this is the introduction of the Baxter Building's AI, Herbie, which stands for Humanoid Experimental Robot B-Type Integrated Electronics.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
In the 1978 Fantastic Four series, Herbie was brought in as a replacement for the Human Torch, with his character design done by Fantastic Four co-creator and giant of the comics industry, Jack Kirby, and was voiced by none other than Frank Welker. An urban myth for the replacement of the Human Torch was because television executives feared children attempting to imitate him would set themselves on fire.
I'm pretty sure that's natural selection.
The actual reason was because of a television rights dispute for the character. In this series, Herbie is neurotic and in some cases borderline psychotic, obsessed with gaining the approval of the team, in particular Reed, often leading him to being manipulated by Johnny to serve his own ends, usually by playing pranks on Ben. The show is also filled with nods to the comic's more famous stories, some good examples being the clever inclusion of the original Fantastic Car and Doctor Doom shooting the Baxter Building into space. World's Greatest Heroes is also firmly rooted in the Marvel Universe, with appearances from the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Ant-Man, Flatman, the Grand Master, She-Hulk, and the small screen debut of Squirrel Girl, both of whom have had notable comic story arcs written by the previously mentioned Dan Slott, who contributed to several of the series' episodes.
Dan Slott is a big deal.
The writers even sneak in a clever cameo of a never actually named Peter Parker, whose animated rights at the time belonged to Sony. Sadly, the show wasn't given the chance to truly develop. With an erratic airing schedule, it ran for only 8 of the season's 26 episodes, before being pulled. It subsequently returned to screens shortly before the release of the film Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, but again the series suffered from poor scheduling and lack of promotion. One major constraint that the writers were given was the banning of the use of major Fantastic Four characters Galactus and the Silver Surfer, who both were the focus of the live-action sequel. I can only assume because the film's producers wanted to treat those characters with the reverence and respect they deserved, and didn't feel that the likes of Christopher Yost, Craig Kyle, Joshua Fine, and Dan Slott would really be able to do those characters true justice, and instead decided to have Galactus be a non-talking giant cloud.
Nailed it.
4 Megaminds. Very underrated, but a nice example of a fresh approach to a well-established group of characters. If you're a fan of the Fantastic Four, then you will appreciate this for its obvious love for the characters and their classic stories. It's fun, breezy, and always entertaining. A great mix of science fiction and superheroics. It's just a shame it didn't get a chance to do more. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, then please feel free to like and subscribe, and check out some of my other content. Until next time.